Hi everyone, welcome to today's webinar. The participants are joining us. At the moment, we have already a good amount of people joined and more will come. My name is Danil Kислинский. I'm the founder of Go Global World, and I'm happy to participate in today's talk with Pedro and Dennis. Dennis has organized this event and in partnership with Go Global. He is leading Ask VC, and today's webinar we will talk about networking. So before Pedro and Dennis will continue on this topic, I'm gonna give you a few updates about our community, and feel free to ask me questions. So let me show a few slides. All right, so if you would have any questions to Go Global World community, this is our contacts, and you may find us on all social media. Today's webinar, why founders we need networking, some useful tips. Pedro Cerdeira will talk about networking, and in my opinion, as the founder who started already 4 companies, it's one of the fundamental things that's required for you to succeed in business. Therefore, I encourage you to look for practical advice, for real life examples from Pedro, and feel free to ask questions. A few things about Go Global World community. We are a free community for founders who speak English and would like to go global. We give you access to global capital, customers, and like-minded people. It's free for you, but it's expected you guys active and are ready to help out each other to enter each other's market. This is the team of Go Global World. We have over 40 people on the team, and they are in 30 countries around the world. We have lots of members on our community as well. So this is your potential network which can help you going global if you would be active and actually sharing your expertise connections with them. As part of today's webinar, we are having some bonus for you. Networking is super important. Therefore, on our Telegram channel, you may access our Telegram bot, which is called Go Global World bot. This bot is designed for you to network across our network, so across our community. So what you need to do is to actually present yourself in that bot, and it will automatically connect you with some other member globally on our community. Once a week it will notify and provide you a different person, so you can extend your global network of founders and help out each other, and hopefully it will bring you additional opportunities entering other markets, and it's all free. As another bonus of today's webinar, we're just giving away free stickers just for you to have fun, enjoy on Telegram and WhatsApp. To find them, you can just scan these QR codes and you feel free to use them. A few words about our webinars. We have lots of amazing speakers coming to our webinars, such as Pedro, Donna Griffiths, Ilyas Trigulaev, Bill Rackett, and those people are coming to share expertise with you to help you to get to the next step in your business adventures. We do have other events coming up very soon. This week we will have Global Founders Meetup in English this Friday. So if you'd like to network and meet other founders from different countries, from different continents, I encourage you to join us and be ready just to share how you can help, and they will tell you how they can help you. Also, next week we're planning to, or in 2 weeks, we're actually planning to meet with Kate Coyne. She will talk about alternative capital options for startups. So venture capital is one option, but there are some other options for for startups, and she'll be happy to cover on that topic, so you can extend your expertise and maybe it will help out to finance your company. For those who speak Russian, we do have pitch events where you can actually speak with professional speakers, and they can give you feedback. We also will do the same in English soon. This one is just for Russian-speaking audience. Also, for Russian-speaking audience, one of the global founders from Russia will talk about how to enter global markets and start it in. If you started from Russia. And another webinar in Russian, and also I plan to do this in English. This is about networking. So how to build your networking so it helps you in life and in your professional career. And those speakers are the best in man I know, including today's speaker, and this is all created for you for you in order to help you out and to take you to the next step in your business. Our events of Go Global World you can find on Eventbrite. Just find Go Global World. Also on Eventbrite, look for Ask VC and register for their next events. We do have global partners, including Ask VC. And if you would have any questions about the community, this other opportunities, or you would like to help out, this is our contacts, and you can join us by going goglobal.world, and you'll see all our social network on the website, and you just feel free to join. We'll be happy to see new founders who are going global. On this note, I'm passing the words to Pedro, and I'm really excited that this webinar is about networking, because I'm really crazy about building network and helping out. You know, there is one thing that I learned, that to build a strong network, you have to give and take. And on this note, I'm passing the word to my colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Danil, for the introduction. I hope everybody can listen to me just fine. Could you just please wave, Danil?
Pedro, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you fine. Can you hear me? Can you hear us? Hello? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we have some.
Yeah, I just had a question. That
minor technical issue. Just a second. The guys are gonna turn on the microphone. Just bear us a moment.
Okay. So I think we're fine now. So let's go ahead. Fantastic. We have the first comment in the chat. Thank you very much, Vasily. Very much appreciated. So again, a big thank you to Dennis and to Go Global World for this invitation to do this this webinar. I would like to settle this with you in advance, all of you in the webinar. In order to make this as interesting as possible, I'd like to make this ultra interactive. So I've passed the point where I've got patience to listen to myself for an extended period of time. I can bear with it for a couple of minutes and then no more. So please do help me in making this as interesting and as interactive as possible. I'll be looking at the chat for any questions or any comments, and we'll be happy to incorporate them into the content of the webinar. Nice news for today, no slides. So it will be just conversation, and again, you play a fundamental role on this. So networking, I thought a little bit about the topic. This is nothing outlandish or strange or an arcane science that needs to be studied and practiced in order to make this work. This is something which is very natural and very human. The topics that I would like to cover today, if you so help me, would be very simple. It would be 5 simple topics. Why? So why networking? Why is it that networking is an important activity, and what can we take out of it? The concept of networking. So what is it all about? What is supposed to happen? What is not supposed to happen? Then usually comes a comment from a lot of people, which is, oh, but I'm an introvert. And can I network? Should I network? I do not feel comfortable networking. I do not feel comfortable talking to other people. So there's nothing to fear about this. Again, this is a natural activity, and you just have to play the game without any further ado. That's how it works. And then another topic, a little bit on the how and tips and tricks, if you will, how to make it happen, how to make it simple. What types of questions you can have in the process of. You will see that it's very, very simple. And then a final section on direct Q&A if you want to pose any questions. So regarding the first one, why networking? So if you think about it, the secret sauce of humanity and for mankind to be where it is, it's cooperation and collaboration. Okay, so it just so happens that we cooperate and collaborate better than a lot of other species out there in the wild. It's not a strange concept. You see wolves, for example, gathering in a pack of wolves. You see sheep gathering on herds. So you see groups of animals actually cooperating for the common good. And that's exactly what humans do. We cooperate. And establishing these connections in between us is what somebody some time ago called networking. So it's as simple as that. It's a human activity. We as people need other people in order to thrive, in order to conduct our business, in order to have our relationships, and in order to build things. What gives us a lot of power over other animals, it's the ability that we have to create complex collaborations. And that's mainly because of language. So because we have a language which is very abstract, we're able to put in place complex collaboration patterns that go beyond saving our lives or getting better food or better water for that matter. So all in all, it's a simple human activity, and in fact, it's an instinct that all of us have inside ourselves. People are also very curious by nature. All animals are to a certain extent. So why shouldn't I would like to find out more about all of you, for instance? I do. I'm on this webinar. I find it interesting that we have quite a few people on the other side looking at their screens. And I'm curious in order to understand what is it that you do, where you are, what sort of interests you have, and all of that. So all in all, it's perfectly normal and perfectly human for people to establish these types of relationships. Okay. The other thing which is also interesting is the fact, and there was a guy some time ago that came up with this sentence. It goes anything like, "You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." Okay, so if you live inside a contained world, you will not see the outside, and it's incredibly important that you establish these types of relationships with other people that live outside of this world, so that you can feel some fresh air around you, and you get inspired with other things, which can be highly beneficial to you. And then there's also a very famous saying or sentence that says, "Show me your friends and I'll show you your future." And what does that mean? It means that the people that surround you, to a certain extent, determine your success and the levels of relationships and what you're able to do in your relationship with the rest of the world. So another very powerful concept that should convince you that networking is fundamental for you is the fact that you're basically 6 degrees away from anybody else in the world. This has, to some extent, been demonstrated mathematically, and it's simple. I mean, whatever the person it is that you want to speak to or you want to get to, it should take you very few hops in terms of relationships in order to get there. Anybody. Because of the complex relationships that get established, either because of family ties, of people that know each other, of trust that gets established, and all of that, you should not be incredibly far away from anybody in the world. So if you're so near everybody, what are you waiting for? It's a basic question. The world is at your feet, and there's simply no reason why you should not be able to reach anybody in the whole of the world. This might not be a direct connection. It is not. So that's why the concept of circles comes along. So there's a first circle, which is the circle of people with whom you have direct connections and relationships around you. Those are the ones that know you and that trust you. And then each of us has his own first circle. And it's the intersection of these circles that actually allows you to jump from one circle to the other and get to where you want to be and with whom you want to speak to very, very quickly. So at the end of the day, you can also look at networking as the transfer of trust. People are curious, yes, but the world takes on a completely new meaning if you have a recommendation, or if somebody says, well, you should talk to this guy because I think it's worth it and I think it's interesting for you. So when you travel through these types of recommendation chains, things get a lot easier in terms of establishing relationships and in terms of getting your message to be heard and understood by those that matter to you. So at the end of the day, and if what you're looking is a commercial transaction, people buy from people. It's incredibly simple. People buy from people that they trust or that they've been told that they can trust. Networking is a fundamental process in establishing that trust and that bond with the person on the other side. And a sale is a very natural outcome of a successful communication process. Okay. So this is a little bit what I wanted to tell you in terms of why networking. Normal human activity, it's instinct to us. If we see somebody which is new and gets to our circle, it's only natural that we try to find out a little bit more about this person and why that person is in there. So just simply go out and do it. That's what you're supposed to do. In the old days, your survival depended on it. Today, it's more like your success and your leverage depend on networking to an effective level. I'd just like to pause for a second or two. Is there any question? Is there any comments that you would like to ask in the chat? We can't hear you, Dennis. Write it down, write it down. Dennis has a problem today. He was supposed to be live as well in voice in the webinar, but unfortunately his microphone is not working. So feel free to just type it down. So if there's no comments or no questions, I'd go for the concept. And the concept it's quite simple. Again, you just need to be human. Be human, be nice, and smile. It's very important to smile. It's very important to be nice because people like people that smile and that are nice. And what that basically means is that that person is not a threat. Okay, and if you're able to smile, which everybody is, then you've done the most difficult part of networking. Just look at somebody in the eyes and smile, and that's it. It's as simple as that. And that first look establishes the relationship, and you can go from then onwards. And if you think about, well, sometimes people are shy. That's true, and they don't want to start the conversation. But you don't have to say anything incredibly intelligent or fancy, or whatever it is. You can just look at the person, smile, and say hello. And that's it, and the conversation can start from that. You've done your first step, which is moving forward and volunteering your hello. So there's no reason for the other person not to look back at you and smile and then say hello as well. And then you can go on naturally to see if you have any common interests or if there's any type of collaboration that you can establish in between yourselves. Having said this, networking is something where you constantly need to consider the other person's position. Okay, so this is a very long-term process and a very long-term game, where you need to consider that you're going to give first without knowing if you're going to get back. You will, most probably. That's what usually happens. And when you get it back. But you need to be willing to give first. And to give first is something that might be of the interest of the other person. Okay? Volunteer a piece of information, volunteer your smile, volunteer the hello, volunteer the first words, and you will probably be reciprocated by the other person. It's very, very simple. It's not rocket science at all. As long as you put yourself on the shoes of the other person and understand what is interesting for them, what is important for them, and you are able to address that instead of looking at that relationship purely from a selfish point of view, you are, imagine that you're playing a game, you are gaining credits. And the more credits that you have, the more you will get back. So go for the credits, score your credits. Don't worry about what it will get back to you and when it will happen, because surely it will happen, and probably you will even get more than what you've put in. But be willing to invest first in those relationships and in that type of networking. It's really important that that people do this. If I consider yourself, when I'm talking to you, when I'm thinking about what is relevant for you, then you will find it interesting, most likely, and you will feel in the need to reciprocate that. Okay, but do not be afraid. This is not an exchange, an immediate exchange. You're not exchanging one thing for the other. Invest. It will grow and it will get back to you. Have no doubts about it. Okay. Very, very long-term process. There are relationships that you can build today that probably will get back to you in 20 years' time. And when they do, it will feel like you have won the lottery. But it takes time. Invest. Okay, that's the main thing that I would say. So here's a comment for me in the chat. Let me read it out. Suppose you come by a table and hear a conversation between two strangers who discuss the business you can be relevant to. How would you storm into such a conversation? Well, that's an easy one. You approach them, you smile, you say hello. I'm sorry, I've overheard your conversation. Perhaps I could be of help to you because I think I have a word to say, or I can add value to in what you were talking about. The worst thing that could happen to you is they tell you, nope, we're not interested. Thank you very much. See you next time. And you go about and you mind your own business and you go where you were going. And you're exactly on the same position that you were before. Or if they're curious and if you have smiled, they will ask you, how? Tell us. And you might have won a customer. You have not lost anything in this process. If they tell you we're not interested, please do not overhear our conversations. That's fine. You just follow your path, and that's what it is. On the other hand, you can lose a lot if you don't smile, say hello, and say, well, maybe I could be of value to you. It's as simple as that. You ask for permission And if they're interested, they'll ask you to talk. But please notice that you have not won anything, you have not lost anything. You might have won the world with that very simple action. The other thing that I wanted to dwell a little bit into, it's the message. So we've already seen the attitude. You need to be positive and you need to add value. The other thing is the message. So humans like stories, okay? All of us have been brought up during our very early years listening to stories. That's how we learn. That's how we like to absorb information. That's how we have been conditioned to absorb information, as stories. And stories are about people, are about things that happen, are about good things, are about bad things, but usually there's a narrative behind them. Okay, so it's not just dry facts. There's a narrative, there's actors, there's people, there's things that happen, there's actions, all of that. So take your time in building your story or your narrative in an interesting way. People usually, and that's even more true today, have short attention spans. So what does this mean? You have very few seconds to get somebody's attention. Okay. Some years ago, your attention span could be a chapter of the book. People had the time and the habit to sit down and read a chapter of the book. Today, people Google. Today, people go to the internet. Today, people look at Twitter, and their attention span is a lot more reduced than it used to be. So invest in the time to put together a narrative and do a little bit of storytelling, which is interesting according to human parameters. You do not have to tell all the facts. You can leave room for imagination. You can leave room for questions. You just need to get the interest going. You know, it's like when you pitch to investors, for example, nobody's expecting you to put up a 10-year financial plan in your 5-slide pitch deck. But you need to somehow say just enough so that people get interested on what is going on, and then they ask you the questions back, okay? So do invest in the narrative, do invest in the story, because that's how the human brain works, and that's how strong connections are made. Now, another important thing is your story or your narrative does not have to be universal. So what do I mean by this? Targeted. Not everybody is interested in all your stories. If you're doing a sales pitch, then you should do a story with a narrative that appeals to your natural customers. The other ones you're not concerned about. So what this means is that you need to think in advance, what types of profiles are you targeting? And this is all about intention and preparation, okay? So if you want to do something, if you want to expand your network in a certain direction, because you're in the business of whatever and you want to find customers or you want to hire people, for example, imagine, just not to turn this into something very sales oriented, imagine that you want to hire data scientists or people which are expert in a certain field of technology. So what you need to do is to find out where these people are, what their habits are, where do they gather, and you need to find people that know them and can actually facilitate the introduction. So you target your story and your message and your value proposition to that specific peculiar that you're looking for. You don't have to come about with an universal narrative of things, because that would be too complex. Target it, pick your group, pick the people that you want to talk to, and put yourself on their shoes, think about what is interesting for them, and follow that. Follow that path. It's all about preparation and coming up with something that makes sense, and with something which is a value proposition which is valid for the other side. Something that comes along very often is, but there's culture and there's controversial topics. Yes, that is true. Culture plays a part where you're talking to people with different backgrounds, and most normally from different countries. People see things differently. Do not forget about that. Be open to new ways of looking at things. You will learn a lot if you're open to that. Okay? You will learn a lot of things which will be very useful to you, because whenever somebody comes along that actually gives you a different point of view, another way to look at things, another way to think about things, you'll come out a lot richer than what you started. So embrace that difference, and if you accept it and if you look for it, you will be highly rewarded in terms of the understanding that you will have of the world. Okay. Having said this, there are controversial topics. Understand where you are on those, and what types of controversial topics can you find? Well, a lot of things, to be honest with you. There's politics, there's religion, there's sports, because if I tell you to begin with that I support another team which is not the same as you support, that will immediately generate somehow an adversarial reaction from the other side. Okay? So don't begin by putting on the table differences or expressing differences which might generate emotion. You want to start with consensus and stuff that everybody can agree upon, and then you build on top of. Okay? So be careful with that point, because people react emotionally to things. Sometimes they react in different ways. There's people which are very emotional. There's people who are not emotional at all, and they don't care about that. So it's take it easy on this. I've got another question in the chat. Would you suggest to avoid those cases of sensitive topics during the conversation? I mean, do not run away from them if they come up. All of us have political beliefs. All of us have religious beliefs to some extent or the other. All of us support one team over the other, or like more one sport over the other. So if you make it a taboo, it's even worse, because it seems like you cannot have an open and honest discussion about other things which are not consensual, and that sort of narrows the conversation very much. Okay, so it helps if you know what the other person's point of view is on a specific topic. If you don't know, it's tricky to guess. To answer the question, it's not exactly a very nice opening in a conversation saying, "Oh, so well, in what God do you believe in?" It's a little bit weird, right? So you can bring it on to the conversation after. You can find stories of people that, for example, profess the same religion. Maybe you profess the same religion as well. Maybe you support the same football team. But try to find it out in the beginning, because again, it can get quite emotional, and you never know what type of reaction you can get from the other side. Another question. For example, could you give us an example? For example, the person of the opposite belief. If you find out that the person is of the opposite belief than you are, that's a simple one. Respect their position. I mean, you don't have to agree with it. If everybody loved yellow, the world would be completely yellow and it would be extremely boring. Richness comes from diversity. So if you know for a fact that the person has the opposite belief that you have, well, you can acknowledge it. Because now you know a little bit better where you stand. So you can acknowledge it. You can say, well, look, it's actually funny because we do not profess the same belief, but as a matter of fact, there are these similarities in between the beliefs that we profess. So you look for the common ground. You don't look for what separates people. You look for what brings people together. Okay? And it could actually be a nice conversation. I've heard not very long ago, two guys, completely different religious beliefs, that were actually in a fantastic discussion, and the religious discussion, because they obviously knew very well, one the Bible, the other one had a different reading of the Bible, okay? And they both knew very well their versions of truth, and they were able to discuss it in an extremely interesting way. And I've seen them getting along very, very well, and they enjoyed the intellectual challenge of being able to have that type of discussion with the other person and actually being challenged from the other side. Oh, so why do you think that this happened? And why do you think that this is in there? So what would be the nice or the logic conclusion to this or to that? So you need, it's entirely possible to establish these types of relationships, which can be very, very interesting, which are based on diversity, but you must make sure that there's a lot of respect at the same time. And people find that usually people find that intellectually very, very challenging, because they're able to question the other side. And it's like playing chess at the end of the day. There's a person in one side that has the whites, there's a person on the other side that has the blacks, and it's actually a confrontation, but according to very specific rules. And it all goes well because you're respecting the rules, and each one of you is making the most to win. So at the end of the chess match, what happens? If you lose, you compliment the winner. If you win, you're happy and you expect to be complimented by the loser. Okay, so as long as you build it on mutual comprehension and respect, it can even be very, very interesting. Okay, and it's actually challenging because I myself, and you can think for your head as well, I find myself having a conversation with a person that disagrees with me and is able to argue with me in an intelligent way, a lot more challenging and a lot more enlightening than somebody who just says, yes, you're right, yes, you're right, yes, you're right. There's no fun in this, okay? So to cut it short, as long as you stick to respect and you sort of understand where it's coming from, it's absolutely fine to go into controversial topics with respect. Obviously. The other thing that I wanted to mention is your ask when you're networking. Okay, so when you're telling the story, and that story is supposed to have an end in itself, and that end needs to be very clear, again, because of attention span, because people do not fully understand all the shades and all the context of your story. But so you need to be very, very clear in the end what you're talking about. What is it that you're asking? And it's fine to ask. It's absolutely fine to ask. But you need to be, you need to know what to ask, because people might not understand exactly what is it that you want. So if you just say, look, there's a nice day, right? There's a nice day outside, the sun is shining, the temperature is fine, everything looks okay. So what does he want in the end? What does he mean in the end by this? Okay, so be determined in terms of what is it that you're asking. And it's fine to ask. I mean, people can tell you no, people can tell you maybe, and people can tell you yes. And again, you go from a position where you cannot lose. I just wanted to address another question that came in the chat in between. Suppose you are at some gathering of startup founders. Is it more efficient to begin conversations with a series of questions or by delivering some prepared message? Right. So this talks to rehearsal. One of the things that is also very important in the attitude and the concept of networking is that it should look natural. Okay. If you're trying, networking has nothing to do with manipulating people. Okay. If people feel manipulated, they'll simply go away. And they will have no curiosity and zero interest in continuing the conversation with you. That's why it's important to give first, to offer first, to invest first, okay? Ideally, it should come from your heart. The message should come from your heart. It should not be like if you're reading a speech or if like you're reading from a paper. You've all seen PowerPoint presentations, I'm sure, where people just get in front of you and they go about and they read slides. It doesn't come across as very natural, and if it doesn't come across as very natural, it comes across as rehearsed, and it comes across as not so trustworthy as if it was natural. It's preferable that you have some doses of invention along the way than to memorize a speech word for word, because then it sounds like as if you're a robot, okay? And that does not build empathy on the other side and does not build trust on the other side. Having said this, some people, and most people do, need to have a script in their head, okay? So you need to sit down and think about the 3 or 4 things which you want to get to the other side, the 3 or 4 bullets that you want to pass on to the other person. And those are the messages that you can think of very well. So what do I want to achieve with this? How should I communicate this? It's this message, and that message. Perfect. But once you do this, don't worry about rehearsing it too much. If you do it over time, it sort of becomes natural to you, and it feels very natural to the person that's on the other side. But don't be afraid of going back and going forth and being a little bit weird in terms of how you're describing it, and not being so systematic, because that's what brings color and humanity to your message, that appeals to the people on the other side, not just go there and simply read the speech. Okay, but thank you for the question. It's a very nice one. If you're more on the shy side, you probably need to think a little bit better in terms of the script in your head, but don't overcomplicate it. You cannot lose from where you are right now. You have everything to gain, nothing to lose. So think about this. If you just say hello, you will have already scored 1 point. Okay, so don't overcomplicate it. Just think about what are the key things that you want to say, get them to the other side, improvise. It'll feel natural, it will feel good, it will build trust on the other side. Another topic that I wanted to touch upon is if the other person says, well, I'm not interested in, or that's fine, but that's okay. I mean, I don't see how that could help me. There's a magic question that you should always ask. Always, 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 always. And that magic question is, do you know anybody else who could be of help or who could be interested in? And like this, you're jumping from the first circle to the second circle already. Can this person, which is not interested in what you're saying or in your value proposition, do they know somebody who is? Can they recommend you to somebody who is? And you would be completely amazed at what type of value you can take out of this. Okay? Because I might not be interested in a certain topic, but I recognize the value that of the story that you're telling me, of your narrative. And of course I know people, and if that makes sense to me, I wouldn't mind at all in referring you to other people that I know of, which could be interested in. Are you interested in buying a pair of yellow trousers? To be honest with you, no, I don't like yellow trousers, but maybe I know people that are crazy about yellow trousers and I can recommend you to them. So it's as simple as this. It's a magical question that it will open the world for you. Another question here. How to approach, meet, and make friends with a person with more status? What can you offer him? How to interest him because he has everything? And why should he reciprocate with me? Because it is better for him to spend his time on contacts with more promising contacts for him. Well, again, we go to the concept of utility. Come up with a narrative or a message which is interesting for the other party. Okay, I mean, you will not get 100% right all the time. There's no such thing as 100%. Okay, this is a social thing. This is a human thing. So it's not an exact science. People, it doesn't matter if they're in a higher social status or a higher ranking status or have more money or have more health or have more this or have more or less that than what you have. At the end of the day, they're people. Okay? So you just need to find something that interests them. A person, imagine that you collect small cars, for example. A person with a lot more social status than you might have the same hobbies. If that is the case, then you have a common ground for conversation. So at the end of the day, we're all human. It doesn't matter if you rank higher on a social status or you have more money or you have more of this or more of that. We all have interests, and interests do not translate directly to money or to people. We have natural interests, all of us. So if you can find something that interests that person, then you have common ground to discuss and you have value to add, most probably. You just need to find out what. What is it that you share in common with that person? And today it's incredibly easy. You can go to LinkedIn or to Google and you can find everything about almost everybody in the world. So that just means that maybe you should do a little bit more of preparation. Find out what is common in between you and that person. Maybe you both like bird watching. Maybe you are an expert in bird watching and that person is just starting and has a ton of questions to ask you about bird watching. And suddenly that person that was supposed to be of a higher social status than you are, or have more money than you, or whatever it is, suddenly you're leveled, or you're on a higher status than that person because you know more about bird watching than that person. Okay, so we're all humans. I mean, at the end of the day, this is not exact in terms of that person is more here and I'm more there. You will share something in common, and for sure you'll be able to come up with a story. Did you go to the same school together? Do you share some common thing? Do you come from the same city or the same region or the same country, or what is it? In the end, you will always find common ground to talk to that person. Do you both like the same foods, for example? And there's a lot of things that have nothing to do with status, okay? So don't be put off by the status of the other person. Do your homework instead. And people, they usually are curious and they want to hear what you have to say. If it doesn't interest them, that's fine. Move on to the next one. It's as simple as that. Tied into this, I also wanted to touch upon on the channel. So how do you do this type of thing, and how do you meet other people, and how can you amplify your chances of success? So what usually works quite well is events and trade shows, because if you go to an event, then it's probable that all the people that you find in that event share the same interests that you do. So you have common ground and you have something to talk about. If you go to a play at the theater, then probably the person next to you also likes the same play that you like, because both of you are at that theater. If both of you go to a rock concert, for example, then probably both of you like that band. You might like it more, you might like it less, but if you're there, then probably both of you share a common interest. Now, this is interesting, but now we have a new normal coming up with the pandemic and with the social distancing and all of that. So how does this happen? What can we do to go around this type of thing, since we should not, or we cannot meet in person at this type of trade events or cinemas or theaters or whatever it is? So there's plenty of things that happen online. You have a ton of websites that do this sort of speed dating, so to speak, in between people. You can easily find things like that. Networking websites, just start a conversation with this person, start a conversation with that person, schedule a conference call with this person, schedule a conference call with that person. So it's very, very easy to go in that direction. Most of these sites will ask you to fill in your profile so that they can sort of match make you to the other person, to make sure that you have some common grounds and some common interests that you can talk about and discuss about it. Try it, because it's very interesting. It's usually some fresh air into your life. It's usually new things that come, new ideas, new points of view. It's a very good idea to do this type of thing. And you don't need to leave your house in order to do this today. So the friction level is very, very small. No need to go to the event, no need to get the tickets, no need to park the car, no need to go in, no need to sit down. You have everything that you need. You can spend 24 hours on this if you want to. That's absolutely fine. But what usually works very well is when you do the first interaction with the other people in person, and then you keep it up in the virtual world, by email, by LinkedIn, by WhatsApp, by Telegram, by whatever it is. usually when you sort of establish the first connection face-to-face with that person, it works quite well so that you can just go on and maintain the relationship with that person over digital media, and it's sort of enough. Sometimes you need to do periodic check-ins in order to rebuild the trust that you had with the other person, but it works very well, even for business. If you start by paying a visit in person to your customer, and then you sort of revert to conference calls, web conferences, phone calls, WhatsApp messages, and all of that. If you do it electronically, it usually works quite well. Any questions so far? I need some water. So I see nothing, and we still have a couple of items that I wanted to go through very. Oh, right. There's a belief that online you miss a lot of verbal info. Dennis, that is very true, because you only see a part of it. When you're live and face-to-face to a person, there's all sorts of non-verbal communication that go on. You look at the person's eyes, you look at the person's hands, you see what the person is doing, where are they looking at, if they're getting distracted in the conversation, the tone of the voice, and all of that. But it's what we have today, and it's better than nothing. So the way I look at it is it ideal? No. If it's face-to-face, it works a lot better. Can it work? Yes, it can. Is it better than nothing at all? In my opinion, it is. Is it less efficient because it's not face-to-face? Well, maybe, but at the end of the day, you get stuff done, okay? Apart from the current situation with coronavirus, something that happens a lot is, for example, is how do you maintain relationships with people in other countries if you do not go there every week or every month or whatever it is? Well, you have to do it electronically. And we go back to the same situation. It's better than nothing. So it's not 100% effective, but it's what you have, and it's what you need to play with. And it's working quite well, because we're also now, with the pandemic, being more trained and more susceptible to this type of situations where you do not shake hands with the other person live. So a lot of the trust building that used to happen on the first relationship live, when you look at the other person in the eyes, the fact of the matter is that it's happening today over Zoom or webinars or whatever it is. So I think it's not the first choice, but very, very efficient in the end, and definitely better than nothing. Any other topics? Just pause for a second, see if any other question comes in. So I see that the number of people is the same as when we started, so that's fine. Nobody switched channels, which is good. Let's go to the rest, because we already have an hour and 5 minutes on the go here, and I don't want to bother you too much. So the introvert part, we've touched on quite a few topics already. Because if I'm an introvert and if I do not feel comfortable about what is going on, what is it that I do? I prepare. That's what it is. Usually, people which are introvert, which is absolutely fine. You can be an introvert as much as an extrovert. It's your own character traits, and that's absolutely fine. But if you're networking, you're relating yourself to other people. So you can look at it as work, for example, if it feels more comfortable to you. or you can look at it as a social activity or a hobby, if you will. Discomfort and the shyness that introvert people usually feel normally comes from thinking that they're not prepared, or somehow it's going to be something that's going to escape their control. Well, guess what? Again, this is a game that you cannot lose. Networking is a game that you cannot lose. You can only gain from it, okay? Because the know and the current status, you already have it. So you can only improve and build on top of that. Another usual inhibitor in this type of things is, what about first impressions? There's a saying that also says, there's no second chance to cause a first impression. Yeah, that is true. I mean, it's a lot nicer if everything goes smooth and very well for the first time, and you make a fantastic first impression, and people like you a lot, and they get back to you, and they're very interested, and so on and so forth. But if you don't, guess what? It doesn't matter. It does not matter at all. And there's absolutely no reason to feel shameful or somehow diminished by the fact that you were not able to cause a fantastic first impression. Well, sometimes that happens, and sometimes that's also an interesting motive or argument to go back to a conversation with the same person and say, look, I'm not sure that our last conversation was very interesting to you or very effective. I was a bit distracted, so please let me try to rephrase that in another circumstance or in another different way, or whatever it is. What nicer argument would you want than asking for a second chance? If it has gone wrong, maybe you have made a fool of yourself. Have a sense of humor about it. Acknowledge it. Why not? It could have been fun. Most of the time it is fun. You do an ass out of yourself, you laugh, you move on, and at the end of the day, I mean, people do not care if you made a fantastic first impression or a not so fantastic first impression. It's not like if they're with a piece of paper and a pen in their hand and trying to score your performance in the first impression that you gave them. Like, as the guy smiled enough, I'm not sure if that was his best smile. Let's give him a 5 for the smile on a scale of 1 to 10, because we're not sure if the smile was exactly how it should be. No, nobody cares about this, okay? Don't worry about it. It's fine. Nobody's keeping the score on if the first impression was like this or like that. It's natural. I mean, again, accept that you're not going to get 100% of the things right. You're human, and you will get better chemistry with some people than with other people. And that's actually an interesting point. I mean, you do not have to network with everybody on the face of the earth. So I suggest, because there's a lot of toxic people out there that you don't want to get involved with, okay? Either because they bring you down, either because they will try to take advantage of you, either because they do not share the same set of values and references that you do. Whatever it is, don't get too worked up about not getting your first impressions and all your conversations right with the people, with everybody that comes across in front of you. Some of the conversations and some of the people are not meant to be had, and you're not meant to network with some of the people that go past you. Believe me, sometimes it's better to run away from them because you do not share the same sets of values. This is usually the problem. than to insist on people that do not see networking as a balanced relationship, or that in the end will try to take advantage from you from another perspective. So don't be too worked up about first impressions or wanting to have everything correct or right from the very beginning. So that's an interesting one, and it's a really important one. Okay, if you take the negative load of having to perform right and having to do a very successful first impression, so if you take that out of the equation, you take the stress out, and even the most introvert of people will be very happy to get into a conversation with somebody else. Just take the sting out, take the negative load off it, and you will see that that it goes a lot better, because again, you have nothing to lose, absolutely nothing to lose. Any more questions? So I think there's only one topic which was left, which is around maybe how and tips and tricks and how to make it right. And we've covered pretty much a lot of it. So the first one is that I would focus on is preparation. If you want to make it a success, prepare for it. And again, this is common understanding and simple things. Don't just go about and think that it's going to come to you, that you're going to wing it, that everything's going to go well. Do a little bit of preparation. Allow for some serendipity and for some emotion to get into it, but do a little bit of preparation. Who are the people that you want to talk to? So networking, but networking in which direction? So what is it that you're trying to achieve? Imagine that you're selling airplanes, for example. So if you're selling airplanes, you need to get involved with the people that buy and sell airplanes. Okay. If you're a startup and you're looking for funding, so that means that you need to invest with the actors in the startup ecosystem and the investors. You need to get involved with incubators, accelerators, people, mentors, coaches, investors, venture capitalists, everybody. So that's the direction that you want to go, okay? And then narrow it down a little bit further. These are the people that I want to connect to, but what people could be interested in, what is it that I have for them and what I can offer them and what do I want from them. Okay, so it really helps if you just think of it in these terms, like, okay, this is what I want to achieve. I'm setting up a strategy to do that. This is what I need to do. This is the people that I need to get involved with. And this is the plan, and this is how it goes, okay? So if you're looking for people that buy airplanes, you do not go out to the beach in the middle of the sea and try to network with the people in the beach, because you might find somebody which can interest you in there, but most people will not have any common ground with what you're looking for and the type of narrative that you want to put in place, okay? So prepare in the sense that you need to be where those people that you want to relate to are, have something interesting for them, be able to offer them a decent value proposition, and then navigate that part. So that's another one that usually helps a lot, and it also helps with the introversion part, and when people are shy and it doesn't come natural to them. So another thing is, fine. So how do I, and this is a very common one, how do I define success in terms of networking? And there's a new question here. I'll go to that in a second. So how do you define success? And what types of KPIs can you put in place to make sure that you're networking correctly and efficiently and all of that? Well, I go back to a comment that I made previously, which is, right, this is a social activity, this is a human activity. Don't get very mathematical around it. It's no use. I mean, you can talk to 100 people and nothing happens in terms of what you're trying to achieve. And then you talk to one more and suddenly everything happens. So how do you measure that type of success? And what happens if you had met that person in the first place and you didn't talk to the other 100 people? So what I'm trying to say here, it's very simple. This is a circumstance where mathematics does not do a very good job. It will only help you in getting pressure on yourself. It's fine to do the sort of basic math. Oh, how many people have I spoken to this month? 30, 300, 3,000, doesn't matter. It depends on the type of objective that you want to achieve. And don't get much more sophisticated than that. It's a human activity, okay? So you can sort of find a couple of interesting things as you go along. Am I pointing in the right direction? Is this coming out to be efficient? But you will not get a tool which allows you to objectively measure how efficient you are, how effective you are, and all of that. So I would not worry too much about that. So going to the question, suppose you have a person in your network who can help you out with your business, but you didn't talk to him for 10 years. How to approach them naturally so you don't feel used? Well, very, very simple. Hello, remember me? And just smile. I mean, it's a lot nicer if you have known a person and you have not spoken to that person for 10 years for whatever the reason, and then you go back because that person already knows about you and knows that you exist, than to get an ice-cold contact with somebody that you never met in real life, and that person has not met with you as well. So think about this. The fact that you knew the person is nothing to be ashamed of. It doesn't matter. Sometimes it happens that you do not talk to people for a very extended period of time for whatever reason. Again, it's no big deal. But you would feel surprised because most people have not forgotten about you. If you, the last time you spoke, you were on good terms and will actually be happy to speak to you and to hear about you again. So again, it's a game that you cannot lose. Pick up the phone, call and say, hello, do you remember me? We have not talked for about 10 years. But I want to see if I could ask you a favor and you could do something for me. It's very simple. This is the situation. This is what I'm doing. And I wonder if you would mind doing this and this and that. You cannot lose at this game. The no, you already have. So again, just frame it like it's a game that you cannot lose and you will be absolutely fine. Another question, how to keep contact with people the right way? Should I somehow remind of myself before going to business issues? So there's no right or wrong rate of follow-up with people. It depends on various people. Okay, so I go back to my previous content about don't try to overcomplicate things in terms of KPIs, or I need to follow up with the whole of my network every single month. No, that's usually not how it works. You will know when it's sort of right to go back to this person or that person. I mean, if it's a relationship that you would like to keep on a recurring basis, and you would like to talk to that person consistently. For example, you want to talk to this person, say, once a month. So if a month has gone by and if you have not said anything, then it's time to go back and to offer them, again, the philosophy of give first, because that person will reciprocate. Give that person something that person likes, and then that person will get back to you. Okay, and you can control the cadence, but don't be too scientific about it. Okay, again, if it's somebody that you want to keep close to you, take the initiative to reach out to that person once every week, once every month, once every 3 months, once every year. Christmas, New Year, other holidays and stuff like that are incredible arguments for you to say, well, how are you doing? It's been a long time. We have not talked for quite a bit. Just thought about you for whatever reason, and I decided to ping you to see if everything's fine. And then going back to your question around the business issues, it's supposed to be a balanced relationship. Okay, so you're supposed to provide something of interest, and the other person is supposed to give you something of your interest as well. Okay, sometimes people don't want to buy from you, and that's fine. But do not think that just because a person does not want to buy from you at that specific period in time, that they will not buy from you on the following day, week, month, year, or that they don't know people that can buy from you. Okay, so don't underestimate the power of one contact. Okay, it's really important. Be respectful of everybody, because you can a certain person might not be drawn into your value proposition, but might have an incredible network of people that just want what it is that you're offering. So don't underestimate the power of the connections. Don't overestimate the power of saying hello. I just remembered that it's been quite a while since we've spoke. I just decided to say hi. Is everything fine with you? Nothing else. And people like that. Of course they do. It's an expression of interest. Or, I was having this conversation with A, B, and C, or I was looking at this thing on TV, or I was reading this book, or whatever it was. And you come to my mind because of this and this and that, and I decided to say hello. Very simple. Another question. Sometimes I become shy in a group of strangers, especially if they are shy too. So how to break the vicious circle? Common ground. Very simple. Talk about things which are common ground for everybody. So this happens a lot with, for example, computer nerds. So why is it that computer nerds organize hackathons and LAN parties and that sort of thing? Because it's common ground for them. You just need to pick the subject that interests the most people around you, and you will be absolutely fine. You will always find people that want to debate with you, who want to add, to contribute, to challenge, to complement, whatever it is. Just pick a consensual subject, and that's it. That's absolutely fine. If the conversation dies away, pick something else which you know it's of common interest. That's exactly how it goes. Nothing more, nothing less. What else? I'm looking at my notes here to see if there is anything else. Another one. No, sorry, this is the same. I'm looking here to see if there is anything else that I wanted to cover. Tools. I think it's my final topic. Tools. So, what tools should we use? Use what you feel comfortable with, and use what you want to use with. It's absolutely fine. Again, I mean, don't be overcomplicated with this type of things. Do not think that you must have a CRM tool just to, I spoke to this guy today and told him this. I sent an email to that guy yesterday and the content was this. I mean, if you really want to do it, that's fine. But you do not want, or you do not need to keep a very detailed log of every interaction that you've had with people. Now, there's no point. There's also no harm in taking notes. I mean, if you want to take notes, you say, okay, this person was interested in this, so okay, fine. I'll review my notes once in a while, and if I come across something which could be of interest to this person, I'll let them know. So it's absolutely okay. I mean, use whatever tools you want to. And another thing about it is, okay, so what is the best one? What is the best tool for networking? There's no best tool for networking and for keeping in touch with people. There's several tools. For example, you have LinkedIn, which is pretty much universal. People in Germany, for example, use another type of app, which is called Xing, instead of LinkedIn. So there's a lot of people that use LinkedIn as well, but Xing is more popular over there. So the platforms are very dependent on countries or regions. I'm sure that China, for example, uses something completely different than LinkedIn. I have no idea what it is. So it depends a lot on regions, countries, even industries. So there might be people that are more drawn to certain tools or platforms because of the industry that they work in. So you just need to find out. I mean, if you're looking into getting network in agriculture, you need to find out what sort of networking tools the people in agriculture use in between themselves, and you need to get in there and ask for the intros. Another question, speaking of cross-cultural communications, could you give examples of differences in business practice that you should account for? For example, Americans always smile and polite, but you can't understand what direction the conversations move. It has to do with experience. So again, culture is its differences. It's acknowledging differences in between people, and it comes with practice. And you need to understand where they're coming from. Okay. So just because people are nice does not mean that they're saying yes to everything that you say. That is very common in certain cultures. People do not like to say no, and it's a real pain because you never know where you stand. The Americans are not the worst. There's other cultures where saying no really gets to them. And it's socially very, very difficult to get somebody to say no. Others are too upfront and too blunt, and can even be offensive according to some other references in other cultures. Like oh, would you be interested in this and this and that? No. So this could be considered rude and not acceptable in some of the cultures. So you need to understand a little bit where you are, and you need to get some experience on the other party. But there's something that works very well to sort it out, which is you ask. So you're being very polite to me. Does that mean that you're saying yes or that you're saying no? Because I'm a bit confused. And if you put it like this, honestly, people will usually give you a better answer than what they have given you in the previous place. Okay, so they will elaborate because they will understand that you are not understanding the message that they're giving you, and there's no point in saying, look, I don't understand your culture as well as I should or as well as I could. That's okay. It's not a problem. Would you mind please telling me what does this mean, or what do you mean by this and this and that? So there's even differences in language and accent and the way that certain words are used in certain places, which make a lot of difference in the long run. Okay, cutting short and answering the question straight. You need to get a little bit of practice, and you need to lose your shame in terms of asking, what is it that is happening? And nobody will find that offensive. I mean, it's obvious that you do not belong in the same set of common rules, and that's perfectly okay. So this person, what usually happens is that they will explain to you what is it that they mean and why. So it always pays off in asking, and you'll understand that it's a learning process, and you can learn a lot from it. More questions. So I think I'm pretty much done in terms of every topic that I wanted to cover. If there's anybody else that has any other question, I'll be very, very happy to take it. Tell us a funny story that happened to you. Ooh. Do you really want during networking? What can I tell you in terms of funny stories? I think the funnier thing that I've seen during networking, it's suddenly you find out that the person that you wanted to talk to, it's really close to you and ends up being the cousin of, or the sister or the brother of somebody that you know very well. And when you've put so much work in trying to get to that person and to talk to that person and say, yes, this is what I'm going to say, and this is what's going to happen, and it's not going to be easy, and this is how it's going to be done. And then suddenly you find out that you have a lot of common ground with that person, that you can get a very easy introduction to that person, and everything goes very smoothly and very well from that point onwards. There's stuff which is not so funny, as in when you find out that you're dealing, as I was mentioning, with toxic people, or that people that suddenly do not share the same values that you believe are the correct ones, and then you start looking at it and seeing that it's going very, very wrong. There's some misunderstandings that sometimes happen, which are also funny, especially when there's different cultures involved. When the other side thinks that you're saying something, and you think that you're saying another thing, and then the conversation starts to diverge, but you don't notice it until it's too late, and that person is over there and you're over here. So there's quite a few things like that going on. But all in all, it's a game that you cannot lose. What is the most unusual place you did networking in, like casino or everything? I mean, there's a chance for networking everywhere. A queue, you're standing in line for something, and you look at the person in front of you or behind you, which is doing something that you recognize, that it's common ground to you, and you say, "Hi, hello, I couldn't help noticing that you were also doing this or doing that. I'm also related somehow, or I like also that type of thing," and so on and so forth. So every place, you're always networking, you're always talking to people, you're always relating to people. So don't miss one single opportunity. Another question: if you start a conversation with a person and in a couple of minutes that is not a good fit for you, how to close that conversation? Politely? Yes, always politely. Okay, always politely. Again, don't ever underestimate the power of the conversation or the person that you're talking to at that very moment. It might be that it's not exactly what you're looking for at that point in time, but it could be extremely important to you in the future. But if you feel somehow that, fine, this is not going anywhere, well, you just end it politely, and well, great stuff. So I guess we'll keep in touch somehow, and that's fine. I like talking to you very much, and that's it, and see you around. So no need to be inconvenient, no need to be unpolite, no need to stop smiling, above all. And just because it didn't work that time, it does not mean that it doesn't work a lot better the next time, or suddenly you find that person in other circumstances, and suddenly it's incredibly relevant for both of you. Right, so we're in 38 into the webinar. I've enjoyed it a lot. There's still a lot of people around. I'm fine to keep on if you have any other questions, but if not, I think I'm pretty much done, and we can repeat this anytime you want. And feel free to reach out to me and to network with me, so to speak. Don't be shy. Just simply reach out, and that's it. I mean, it's really simple. Just reach out. I'm interested in this. Can you help me in that? Yes, no, maybe. It's a game that you cannot lose, and at the end of the day, it's about social and human relationships, and that's what gets you going, and that's what gives you leverage. So if there's nothing else, Dennis, thank you very much. It was a wonderful experience. Looking forward to doing other stuff like this in the future, and keep in touch with all of you. Take care, stay safe, and see you around.